Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Ajay Drives. And today, what I have for you is India's most fuel efficient car for review. Now, this is the Maruti Celerio, and the first time it came out in India was back in 2014. And at that time, it actually wasn't the most fuel efficient car in India. It was just a basic hatchback that sat somewhere in the middle of the Wagoner and maybe the upper Ignis or something of such sorts. But at this point, they've really made a lot of changes for the 2021 year model. And as you can see, there's a lot of changes that they've made to the face of this car. So, talking about the face of this car, first thing I want to mention is this car looks wider for sure. This is a much wider silhouette as opposed to the old Celerio. And I'm going to pop a picture somewhere here of that old Celerio. And as you can see, what they've done is they've really worked on the face to make it look both nice and intimidating. So, they've made it look like a city car, but still added some sportiness to the look of the outside of this car. So as you can see, they've got swoop back headlamps for this specific car, and the grille kind of meets the headlamps in the middle of the section of the car, and then right in the middle you've got the Suzuki logo. So as you can see, it makes a nice smiling face, and what that does is really gives an air of sort of friendliness to this car. And the whole purpose of this car is to be a city car. So what they're really going for is that look. But of course, they have brightened it up and made it look a little bit sporty with these black sections at the bottom of the face of this car. And just in general, they've made this car look quite a bit wider than the original Celerio. Now, that's everything about the face of the car. What I want to show you is the side of the car. So let me just take you there. All right, so now we've moved to the side section of this car, and there's a lot of different things to really cover here. So in this side section of the car, you can see that these wheels are completely blacked out. So what you see in front of you is the manual transmission top of the line model of the new Celerio, and it's got blacked out wheels. So it's got some really good wheels going for itself. And apart from that, while I'm on the side, where I also want to talk about the engine specs of this car. What makes this car so fuel efficient? How did they do it? So the engine under the hood right now is a K10C engine by Maruti. And what they've done is they've added a couple of injectors per cylinder. And what that does is it makes the fuel and air ratio so good in this car that it just makes it one of the most fuel efficient cars that you can buy in the country today. So again, they've made a lot of cool things and different changes inside the car under the hood to make sure that this engine is extremely sort of efficient, but still a very good car to go from point A to point B within the city. Now, apart from that, what I also want to let you know, what is standard fit in this car is the auto start. Now, while I'm on the side sections of the car, what I also want to show you is what they've done with the door handles. This is actually kind of cool. So, this is the top of the line model, as I said. It's got keyless entry and go. And the way they've actually made that happen is by tacking on a separate button, and this locks and unlocks the car. So, pressing this button is actually what makes the doors unlock. And of course, if you press it once again, it locks the doors as well. All right, now moving from the side section to the back. I actually even like the back of this car quite a bit. They've got, again, suit back kind of tail lights even at the back. And they've done the same thing that they've done with the doors, even on this side. So there is a separate button here for the keyless entry. Of course, it might have been an afterthought because it really looks like it's been tacked on there later for the top of the line variant. But that's all right. I think it still serves the purpose. You can unlock the boot from a button right here. Now, while we're at the back, I could also talk about the boot space. And when I talk about the boot space, as you can see, the boot space of this car is really good. It's really deep actually. It's got a very nice opening and it's quite deep as well. And the top of the line variant also gets the nice parcel shelf. You can get a good like 3 to 4 suitcases in here, and I'm talking like medium to small sizes. You can get 3 to 4 good suitcases in here without any issue. So the practicality of this car from a boot space perspective is quite good as well. So now that we're on the interior of this car, I want to talk a little bit about how Maruti has done with this interior. Now, when I stepped inside the car, the one thing I noticed is they've done a good job placing the start and stop button. It's in a very nice, ergonomically placed section. Apart from that, what they've done is also placed your mirror switches here. And that's actually something that's hidden from the driver's view. It's not really easy to get to the mirror switches. So until you're actually going to adjust the mirrors and actually look inside the dash, you're not going to be able to adjust those mirrors too well. Now, apart from that, they've also done a good job with the gauge cluster of the car. The gauge cluster of this car gives you all the information you need. At the end of the day, this is a practical car. You need to get from point A to point B, and it gives you more than enough information for that. Your fuel information and your tachometer is in a digital section, and an analog section actually has your speedometer. And the digital section also shows you your range and also shows you your average fuel economy, which is very important to this car. Um, Now, apart from that, I want to talk about the steering wheel. This specific steering wheel is, as I mentioned, it's in the top end version of this car. The one thing I actually didn't understand is why they placed these switches on the bottom of the left side of the steering wheel. They could have done a better job with that and just placed it the right side, because this section looks quite empty due to that fact. And as I said, this is the top of the line variant, so it's not like this car is missing any features in the first place. Now, apart from that, I'd like to talk about the screen. This screen does a very good job actually giving all the information you need. So it's got Bluetooth, auxiliary, FM, it's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And that's a really great addition that cars in this category are making these days. You've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto from this section right here. And it works quite well. I think it's a smooth enough touchscreen. Once in a while, I actually end up touching the wrong button sometimes, and I don't get all of the information I need. Sometimes it's a bit fiddly, but all in all, does the job. It also shows some other information like your average mileage and your range. And also, when you click on it, it gives you your real time fuel efficiency and also gives you any alerts that the car might want to give you. Now, moving on from the screen, I want to talk about what's below the screen. And what's below the screen is actually some switches. And this is the part that I know even the owner of this car doesn't like very much, which is the fact that they've placed the window controls under the screen. Now, that's something that in the previous scenario used to be on the door pads, but they've moved the window controls and the lock unlock buttons to the middle of the car. Now, I actually don't think that having the lock unlock button is a huge problem. I think that's even better, because a lot of times I can't find the lock unlock button on the door pads, but it's very convenient to have the lock unlock button here, right below the screen. But having those window controls there, that's definitely something I know the owner of this car doesn't like, and I don't prefer it very much either. Apart from that, great rotary dials for your aircon, so your air conditioning works perfectly. And being a Maruti, it's obviously got great air conditioning. I think Marutis have always had good air conditioning and never had an issue with that. Now, talking about the entire dashboard, I would like to say what Maruti has done here is truly phenomenal in terms of the fact that all of this is hard plastic. Of course, it's in a hatchback sort of budget category, but what they've really done is they've hidden all the hard plastics with textures. So they've got great textures, above the steering wheel. The entire dashboard also has some great textures to it. And all in all, it doesn't feel like they're hard plastics or cheap materials, because they've been textured and actually given a different look and feel. And just all in all, they've also got this nice winged look going with the entire dashboard. So it looks like there are two wings coming out from the middle of the dashboard, which is really nice. I think they've done a good job actually making this car look this nice. And I also really like these AC vents. And I also really like these vents also for the passenger and driver seat. They are different, and I think they've done a good job making it look good. Coming to practicality, we've got a 1 liter bottle here for practicality tests. And if I place it in here, not that big an issue. It still does intrude a little bit with the AC vents, but I think that's all right. It's acceptable. Apart from that, it's got a 12-volt socket and a USB and auxiliary input. Coming to the door pads actually has space for a 1 liter bottle, but only if a 1 liter bottle looks exactly like this. If you get a 1 liter bottle that looks fatter than this or is fatter than this, it's not going to fit in these door pads. But I think all in all, it's all right. It's practical enough. I wish they had a little bit bigger of a door pad, but in the segment that this car sits, it's all completely acceptable. I don't think there's anything wrong with the interior of this car in terms of practicality. Now, coming to the back seat of this car, actually, this car has pleasantly surprised me in terms of how the back seat of this car is. Because I've set this car, seat, basically, I'm 6'2", I've mentioned this again in my previous videos. I've set this seat specifically to how I like it to be. And I can definitely tell you a taller person would be comfortable here, but I'm all right. I don't think I'm very uncomfortable here at all. My legs have enough space to just enough space to actually be there, and the seats are soft enough for me to actually push my legs in a little bit more and have enough space and be comfortable in this back seat. One thing I really don't like is these headrests are just not adjustable. I mean, my head basically doesn't have any support in the case of a whiplash or any kind of situation where I might need a rest for my head. So the headrest situation is really not that good. Apart from that, the practicality is quite good. These seats actually split 60-40. I was very surprised to see that in a car in this segment where they actually allowed these seats to split 60-40. One thing that isn't the best in this back seat either, and I know the owner doesn't like this either, which is there are no controls for these windows here either. Those controls are actually placed here, which is in the middle of the driver's and passenger seat. And it's just a, I mean, to open my windows, I actually have to get all the way here to open the windows if I want to do that. And that's really not the best in terms of ergonomics. I find that kind of funny. I don't know why they would have done that. But that's basically all I have to report from the back seat. There's nothing else that I essentially have to tell you from the backseat experience. And I just want to show you driving this car at this point. All right, so now I'm actually going to show you the drive experience of this specific car. And to do that, I'm simply going to go ahead and first open my mirrors, put on my seatbelt, and start driving the car. And just as a preface, I am going to come at this car review from the perspective of a person who's going to be buying this car. So I, as an enthusiast, I'm not going to really talk too much about the performance of this car or how it does in terms of 0 to 100 speeds and things of such sorts, because that's really not the point of this car. And that's not the point of what we're trying to achieve here. So what I do want to talk about is the efficiency and everything of this car, which is the fuel efficiency figure sits at a estimated 26.6 kilometers to the liter, which is one of the most impressive fuel efficiency figures that I've ever seen. I think that is really, really cool. And even when I was sort of driving this car with a little bit of a heavy foot and I was like trying to make it go fast and things, it was giving me 18 kilometers to the liter, which is so good, especially when it comes to Bangalore city traffic. Bangalore city traffic really does not like to give cars any kind of mileage, but this does a good job even coping with the mileage of the city. And I'm talking with air conditioning on, with all of those things, and everything going, the music going, the AC going, everything. So there's no issues there. Now coming to the drive experience of this car, I actually think that Maruti has hit a home run with the fact that this car is actually quite refined. The engine doesn't make too much noise. It's very easy to amble around in the city and actually drive around in other areas. I think it'll do even very well on the highway with the kind of sort of low end input that it gives me. All right, so I think when I'm talking about the drive experience of this car, the best way to do it is in the traffic that you see in front of me right now. Unfortunately, COVID might have been gone, but what that's resulted in is some of the worst traffic I have ever seen in Bangalore once again. I'm stuck in traffic. There's no way to get out of it. What I do like is there's a Porsche next to me. It's a 911. It's such a beautiful car. And it is the 2021 model, so that's pretty cool. Uh, but all right, so now I have finally found some better roads to actually review this car and its drive experience. So I'm going to start again. And what I'd like to tell you about this car's engine is I think what they've done with this engine is actually quite nice, because what it is a really refined engine. And I think not just the city, it can tackle 2, 3, 400 kilometer road trips without any issues as well. Because what they've really done with this car is given it a lot of low end punch. So at this point, I think I'm on the speed of, I don't know, 35, 40 ish. And I'm on fourth gear, and the car's perfectly okay with being on fourth gear at this point. Of course, it's very efficient at this point as well. But the fact that it's not vibrating, it's not complaining about the fact that I'm on a higher gear at a lower speed, really shows the fact that it has low end grunt. And and I think that's the best tuning it could have for the city. Because what else are you going to do? When you're at the speeds 35, 40 within the city, you're probably just going to leave it on the highest gear possible, pull out the most fuel efficiency, and that's the way to go about it. But even when it comes to maybe pulling a little bit more, giving it a little bit of a grunt on the highway, it doesn't complain too much. I think the power in this car is sufficient, if not more, but it's sufficient enough to pull off smaller overtakes and also certain bits of highway driving every now and then. Of course, if the car has a full load, I'm assuming it's going to have a different reaction to my throttle inputs. But right now, with just me, I don't think it's complaining at all with the fact that I want to overtake people. Really, honestly, a great pulling car. I think for the city, really great for the highway also. Um, Definitely not preferable, but nothing to complain about for sure. So, all in all, Maruti has created a great engine and does great with performance, fuel efficiency. They've got an all rounder on their hands, no doubt. This is definitely a great car. The only thing that I could complain about a little bit is I can hear suspension noise, road noise, and wind noise inside this car a little bit. So, if they could really dampen or sort of do something about getting outside noise to lower down a little bit, that would be great. But other than that, no complaints at all. I think it's a great gearbox. It's easy to use. The clutch is very light. The brake is very good. It's got front discs and rear drums. And it's a great setup. And this is what Maruti excels at anyway. They know how to create cars that are going to run forever and are going to cost you nothing to maintain, and or next to nothing to maintain, and also keep you happy for the entire duration of the time that you want to keep the car. Of course, complemented with a resale value whenever you want to get rid of it. So, yep, definitely an all rounder on their hands. And to conclude, that's basically all I have to say. If you're looking for a car in this price segment, peace of mind without any problems with reliability or maintenance costs, and you just want to go on short road trips along with mostly city runs, you've got a very fuel efficient, spacious, and practical hatchback on your hands. And I will see you in my next video. You should like, comment, and subscribe. And you should definitely let me know if there's any other car that you'd like me to feature on the channel. I will see you later.